I decided to start homebrewing after I watched a episode of Good Eats with Alton Brown, and he did beer in about 30 minutes, you know, edited television beer anyway, and maybe want to go out and try it.
We started the Iron Brewer competition years ago. It's largely when we realized that how much sugar we were dumping down the drain when we used to brew a particularly strong beer. One of our beers that we made was so strong that we had to use so much malt in order to make that beer that there was quite a bit left over at the end of the day, and it really was enough to make several or more than several 5-gallon homebrew batches. So one year, instead of dumping it down the drain, we decided to call a bunch of homebrewers up. A bunch of our very regular customers came in with 5-gallon plastic buckets, took over what we call the second runnings, which is a lower gravity wort from our big batch, and then they all brought it home and made beer out of it. It was really kind of interesting to see what came back from that, because everybody kind of did something a little bit different. The following year, we decided to make a competition out of it, and we called it the Iron Brewer for two reasons. One's more obvious than the other. We're Iron Hill, so the name kind of tied in, but it also reminds me a lot of the Iron Chef competition in that you kind of take what we give you and you see what you come up with.
I decided to enter the second Iron Brewer competition. Sounded like a fun time and free wort, so equals free beer. And thought about it probably the week or two leading up to it about what we'd make, and went through a lot of different recipes, a lot of different ideas, really trying to make something that would win. And the night before the competition, just sat there thinking about, you know, what did I want to try? What did I want to do? And finally ended up saying that I always wanted to do something with chili peppers. And I love porters, and thought, try something with that and chocolate and see what happened. All along, the carrot dangling in front of the horse, as it were, was being able to brew on a bigger scale. It definitely was a big eye-opener, getting to brew on a big system. And more beer, I mean, equals more work. Not necessarily more time, but definitely more work. A lot more grain means a lot more stuff to stir around while you're mashing. It's a little bit longer time to mash in, and more grains to shovel out, more cleanup at the end.
It's always a little bit risky doing the Iron Brewer competition because homebrewers tend to be very creative with the ingredients that they use. So, you know, you never know if you're going to wind up picking the winning batch, having it be something that's kind of outrageous and something that wouldn't necessarily be at home in a commercial brewery. But this one, I think, is just the right amount. I think it's uses some unusual ingredients, some interesting ingredients, but I think it's still something that will be well received by our guests. We do have a lot of pretty adventurous customers. We've brewed some unusual beers before, you know, whether they be sour beers, coffee beers, chocolate beers, beers with unusual ingredients, and never had trouble getting people to drink them.
Chili pepper beer, I thought when I made it, was kind of adventurous, kind of risky. I wasn't sure if I'd like it myself, even though I love spicy foods. And I think I was more nervous when we were putting the recipe together about keeping it tamer. And Chris really was just like, whatever you want to do, whatever heat level, you know, we'll make it as close to the original as possible. And that's what we've really tried to capture.
We kind of reverse engineered it. He sent me the recipe that he had. I plugged it into my system and saw what the IBUs would be using his recipe, what the colors would be using his recipe, and kind of made sure that everything fell into place, you know, with to replicate the beer that he made. The other thing that's always tricky about something like this is the cost. You know, what might cost a home brewer $5 for an ingredient could be financially prohibitive, something like ours. So it wasn't a cheap batch to make, but it's something that we're excited about making, so it was worth it.